It's my pleasure tonight to be introducing our guest speaker, and it seems like every time I'm at this podium, I'm saying, you meet the nicest people in Renfrew Detox Center. And that's where Shannon and I met a little over 2 years ago. And she's going to come up and talk about her story, but I'd like to talk a little bit before she does about her journey with me and with Recovery Calgary and this church. When Shannon was discharged from Renfrew, I went over to the core the morning before treatment started, and I don't know why, because I never go over to the core before treatment starts. And I bumped into Shannon, and she was at Booster Juice getting herself a juice, which I thought that was kind of a healthy thing to do. And I said, why don't we walk back to the church together? So she said, sure. And she had a big grin on her face. And I later learned that it wasn't all that healthy, her being in the core that morning, because she was there thinking about not coming to treatment and instead looking at picking up that morning and going back out again. So if you think there are no coincidences or that God doesn't work in funny ways, you're wrong, because I think that was a God moment. Shannon came into treatment, and she did 6 weeks with us, and then she decided that she wasn't feeling safe enough to leave at that point in time, and asked if she could continue and do another 6 weeks with us. And that was a good choice on her part, because she knew that she wasn't ready to be out there, and she knew that she wasn't capable of doing things on her own, and she needed a little bit more structure in her life. And I'll be the first to tell you that it was a struggle with Shannon a lot of the time that she was in treatment with us. And there's no two impressionable kids here, and none that can probably see this, but we kind of have a joke right now that for the first few weeks I would say to Shannon, just show me what you're thinking, because I know you're thinking this. And she went, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm thinking right now, because I was hard on Shannon. And I'm hard on people I believe in. After 12 weeks was up, I looked at her and said, "You're not leaving, are you?" She kind of laughed and said, "No." So I know that was God, excuse me, doing all the crying for you, Shannon. Talk about codependent, eh? I know that God works here in this church, in our world, in our recovery programs, and in Shannon's life, because I see it every day. Shannon stayed and decided to go back to school, and she has just recently completed her addiction certificate at Mount Royal University, and she made Pete and Mai's marks look like we were D students, because she was complaining every time she got less than a 95. It was just remarkable to watch her go through that and see the progress of her studies at that point in time. And God working again. I had just lost my co-facilitator in the treatment room, and so I invited Shannon to stay if she would get some education, which she did. And she works with me now day in and day out in that treatment room as a co-facilitator. I can count on Shannon to be there. I never get a bad report from anybody that works with her, and she does coaching, one-on-one coaching as well. And it's been a pleasure to see her journey, to see her growth, and to be part of that. And so I'd like you to welcome Shannon as she comes up here to talk a little bit about her story.
Hi everybody, I'm Shannon. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. No matter how many times I say my story, I still get really nervous, and lots of pain comes up for me. Lots of new memories. So I'm just going to get right into it. My drinking history starts at the age of 9 years old. I remember having my first drink. My stepdad had freely given it to me while I was bathing in the bathtub. I remember the unforgettable feeling that that drink gave me. I did not realize it at the time, but it helped me cope with the sexual abuse that started at the age of 5. I grew up in a home that was toxic and full of pain, painful memories and abuse. My mother was an alcoholic and addicted to prescription pills. She was constantly depressed and eventually would take her own life when I was 27. You know, I remember my mom laying on the ground, and I remember trying to pick her up and wake her up. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. 6 days after she killed herself, I tried to kill myself. I remember the doctor. It was in a Tabor hospital. I was in Lethbridge at the time. I tried to slit my own wrist. I had 72 stitches in my arm. It was clear I wanted her destiny. There was very few days from that point on that I wasn't trying to kill myself. Thanks. My real father left at the age of 4, and my mother remarried a man 3 months later who was anything but loving. The truth is that he was a monster and would physically abuse my brothers, and sexually abuse me. I remember my mom on the couch having bloody noses and driving on this camping trip, and my stepdad just throwing the keys at her, and just blood pouring down her face, and I was just little. I was in the back, and I was... At the age of 11, I would start drinking on my own. I started having blackouts. I would sneak out of the house at night, only to find that nobody noticed or even cared. Some of my more painful memories are my mom leaving me alone with my stepdad. There was no kicking or screaming in the world that would make her stay. I started to act out more and more at that time. And then I would eventually find drugs. I got pregnant at the age of 17, only to find that I was an unhealthy parent with no skills, and that only increased my drug use. My boyfriend at the time would eventually take her away from me, and she went to go live at his parents' house, to live permanently. A few years after that, my mom thought, that it was a good idea to charge my stepdad for sexual abuse. They were getting a divorce and he wanted money, so of course my mom threatened him. She knew the abuse went on, and in fact, she turned a blind eye every time. Truth is, even to this day, I forgive her. Never blamed her once. But at the time, she wanted revenge, and so did I. They were on one of their many breakups, so I knew that it was a good opportunity to make my mom really happy and to get even with my stepdad for everything that he did. We eventually phoned the police, and after spending 3 months with a detective with constant memories and constant putting me back to those places, and I remember his name, it was Detective Shields, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. He was finally charged. This time brought up more painful memories for me than I could have even prepared myself for. The trial was hell, and it dragged on. My stepdad was diagnosed with bladder cancer during this time, and needless to say, he got 8 months for 7 years of abuse. My mom would eventually go back to him shortly after. I later found out my mom's real reason, or one of the reasons, was due to money. After the trial, I guess it was safe to say that I went a little crazy. I stopped caring about anything and everyone. This included my own daughter. I would eventually get into abusive relationships myself and would not have any care in the world as to what happened to me. I would wake up after being assaulted and do it again the next day and not think anything of it. My only care was getting high. And I didn't care what I had to do to get high. This behavior repeated itself and went on for years. I got into one crazy, addictive, abusive relationship after the other, and it didn't matter. The more years that have passed, the more I would create my own hell, and the more my addiction took precedence over everything. I had no desire to live or stop using drugs ever, or to give up on any relationship. I needed somebody else to make me feel better. I felt like a useless piece of shit, day in and day out, and nothing that I was ever going to do was ever going to change. I believed that everything that was ever told to me as a child and my adult was true, and I was going to prove them right. I got pregnant a second time in my early 30s. And for one small moment, I had a little bit of hope, yet again. A hope of a family, a hope of loving another child, or a child loving me that I couldn't give myself. But nothing changed. I went on a methadone program, but would relapse time and time again. This only put my daughter in a great amount of danger, and the truth is, I would take her with me to get drugs, and I would smoke crack in the same house as her. It was no surprise she was soon taken away by social services for good, and rightfully so. The pain that I caused them both was enough that I would keep trying to take my own life. Everything that ever mattered to me was taken away, or I didn't have the skills or the ability to take care of it. I would eventually start treatment programs only to find out that I would relapse a short time after. I have been over 10 treatment centers and been in detox since I was 18 years old. I still lacked the skills and the ability to cope with any of my feelings or my shameful past. I quickly found myself participating in criminal behavior and found myself in and out of jail. No matter what I did, I still felt something to the core of me was damaged. I was alone and I hated myself. I'm not even sure how all of this happened. Some may say it's God. Some may say it's this church, meetings, Recovery Calgary. Maybe, I don't know. But if I was to really think about it, what matters most and what I hold close to my heart is the people that attend this church. It's the people that share their pain, own their stories, and show up here no matter what they are going through, and are completely vulnerable. There is no way I could get up here unless I saw someone before me do that. My life definitely started to turn around in December 2016, and boy did it ever. Brad, I didn't like you. And I'm being really nice about that. I didn't realize it at the time, but the gifts I would receive from working a program, staying clean and sober, still blow my mind to this day. Brad, you're right, I met you at Renfrew detox center and was given the opportunity to start treatment. That also led me through the doors of Central United Church. My life has changed from that moment on. I was petrified beyond words. I was scared. I wanted to do drugs. I wanted to drink, and I was full of fear. I didn't sleep for the first 6 to 7 days that I was in treatment. I was crazy. I was losing my mind. But I kept showing up. I kept showing up because I trusted. And it wasn't me. I didn't trust myself. I trusted Recovery Calgary and this church. And every day, as much as I didn't want to hear it, I was given hope, and a deeper hope than I was ever given before. I kept showing up and I trusted. This was personal to me and it was real. And as much as I thought that I wanted to die, I didn't. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be whatever productive member of society that life should hold, but I didn't think it was in the cards for me, and I definitely didn't think it was possible. I was taught how to feel without relapsing and deal with I was taught how to deal with my addiction and my relationship issues, which is even ongoing right now. Over 2 years have passed, and I have not touched any drugs or a drop of alcohol. Today, I can deal. You know, some people look at numbers as being a big deal, but when I think about it, that's since I was 8 years old. I've never had that time without anything. And I'm 41. Today, I can deal with whatever life throws at me, including my imperfect self. I have a beautiful baby girl, Gracie, who is safe and loved beyond words today. I have friends in my life that I will treasure forever. And this is a part of my story where I would start to become dishonest. I would start to tell you guys what a wonderful marriage I was in, and that I was so grateful and blessed, and I would leave it at that. But that would be a lie. My truth is I have been in some pain for some time, without passing any blame and keeping a complete accountability for my own behaviors and actions. It was unhealthy. And just like addiction, I found myself in another relationship addiction. But in this time I had recovery, I had a job, I had a beautiful baby girl. And for quite some time, I didn't know how to deal with that alone. But it would slowly come out. And just like my addiction, I had to learn how to trust. And I trusted you, Brad. You knew what I was going through, and again, I didn't like you for what you were telling me. And I didn't like you either, Peter. So today I stand in front of my church family, the real people and my friends that I will always hold close to my heart. Because today I'm not going to stay stuck in that shame of trying to pretend that I'm in a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage. Because I'm not, and that's okay. I'm starting to do the work on that, and I'm starting to look at my own reasons for the things that I do and the patterns that I've created in my life. This week and this last year, a part of my life has been I've kept a lot of shame inside. And even though I feel great about so many of my accomplishments, about, completing my certificate, which was a big deal to me, I was always told all my life that I was stupid and that I would never become anything. In fact, I was told I wouldn't even finish grade 9. For the first time in my life, I'm stepping out of that shame, because even in recovery, we make mistakes. And not to say that, my significant other was a mistake. This is me. This is my journey, my truth. And because of the safetiness in this church, I'm able to speak about that today and not come up here and lie to you and tell you how wonderful things are, because they're not. They're hard. I have to work hard each day, and I struggle. But I have love, and I have people to support me. I have a wonderful sponsor that I have to phone every day. I still attend meetings, even when I don't want to. I don't. Sometimes it's hard with a baby, with working. Today I'm proud of myself because I speak my truth and I ask for help. And as a result, I can take care of my daughter. So the same thing, it doesn't keep happening. Thanks. Today, I just want to offer hope, as when I started my journey, I had nothing but a broken soul. I was empty, and I guarantee you I will never take for granted the gifts and the miracles that are in front of my life today. God gives us all so many signs, and for so many years I chose not to see them. He gives us all. He plants seeds all around us, and I choose today to look at them. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up at this church, that share their lives and they make this real. And it's truly meant everything to me, and it teaches me that it's okay just to be me. So, thank you for listening.
I told you that it would be powerful. I certainly didn't get to see the script before she... There might have been a couple of edits, but she told her story from her heart, and I told her before she started just to trust God and let God speak through her. And she did a wonderful job. Thanks, Thomas. We're often asked why we're here, why Central's here, and that's why when Pete and I were asked to take over the recovery service on Sunday nights, we thought that it was important to share stories like Shannon's and all the other people like William, who's sitting right behind Shannon, who shared last month with us. And it's important to hear these stories because that's why we open these doors every Sunday night to you and anybody that you'd like to bring along with you. Tell everybody what goes on here. Tell everybody about the miracles and keep coming back.